They are talking about completely, and look, I'll be honest with you, it is interesting, the idea of, bringing back the moor, that kind of stuff. But talk about bouncing the dead cat, if that's indeed the right thing, when there's so much else going on. But Chlöe does a fantastic job of redirecting the conversation of, bringing back the moor into more important things, including looking after the current ecological system we have and maybe not trying to put a mine in the middle of the Kiwi habitat. So some from Chlöe.
Yeah, I mean, look, it sounds really cool. I'm interested in learning more information, but I think that we also need to, as you did in your opening remarks, make something of the fact that right now we know that we are in a kind of biodiversity crisis here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. 75% of our Indigenous native biodiversity, our bats, our reptiles, our fish are currently at risk of extinction. This government said it's too expensive to try and save them. So, if we're talking about bringing some of these extinct species back, surely we should also be talking about saving those that we already have.
See, I agree with you, and that's why I asked that question. But the scientists seem to suggest that if you bring some back, that helps aid biodiversity. And if you had something like that was big and out there, and people would travel from all over the world, then you would build sanctuaries. You would build...
We've kind of got that for Kiwi right now, though, don't we? And this government's proposing putting coal mines in the middle of Kiwi habitats. I mean, it's true.
Is that funny?
No, it's not. It's not funny. It's funny the way that Chlöe spins a lot of...
It's funny the way that Chlöe spins it. You mean accurately. Shane Jones this evening talking about lizards. The dead moths and lizards that we have to look out for. Yeah. Yeah, so it is actually accurate.
These things. We need to be able to make sure that we can heat New Zealand. So we are going to dig for coal, but we also make sure that we look after our Indigenous species as well. I think it's a good thing that we're looking at whether or not we can recreate the moa, because what this means for the future is that we could look after some of the animals that we're worried about right now if we can understand how we can protect them, how we can recreate them if that's the way forward as well.
Also, do we need to worry about the Kiwi going extinct if we can just bring it back? Do you know what I mean?
I think we do. There is no, I mean, this is part of the problem though, right? There is no economy without ecology. Jobs happen on the planet, and we actually can create an economy that works for and supports the well-being of people and planet, as opposed to exploiting and exhausting both.
There you go. Clip number one, very nicely delivered as well. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any interest in that moa story, Chewie? I mean, like I said, the only thing that annoys me, here's the thing that annoys me about the moa story. Every time that comes up, whether it's about the moa or whether, they talk about the woolly mammoth, they always show fucking shots from Jurassic Park 1995 as like their only reference point. As you see that sign where Sam Neill pulls down his glasses because he's seen a Triceratops in the background. It's like, It's interesting, but it's not important right now. It's not important. Whether there was a new moa or not, it's not important.
You heard it here first. Proof that Pat Brittenden was not a dinosaur kid.
Oh, actually, it wasn't a dinosaur kid.
No, it shows. You showed your whole ass there by not pronouncing the name Diplodocus.
Diplodocus.
I almost got into a fist. I almost got into a fist fight with a kid at primary school over whether it was Diplodocus or Diplodocus.
Diplodocus.
So I was a dinosaur kid. Look, I think
it was actually a brachiosaurus, and it was 1993.
Brachiosaurus. Okay, that's
so you weren't. Hang on. So that means sure you weren't like a dinosaur kid, obviously.
No, I absolutely was. I am a dinosaur kid to the point of view now that whenever there is dinosaurs being showed and they don't have feathers, I get angry. I am an adult man. Look, I think Chloe's exactly right. Cool. We can bring back the moa. If it was something that happened, I would go and fucking see one. It would be cool. Is it something that deserves any sort of media spotlight? Let's get two government ministers to talk about it. No, it's a nonsense story. Peter Jackson's apparently involved. Peter Jackson's involved in lots of things. We're still waiting for his remake of the Dam Busters 20 years later.
Yeah.
Let's not wait for Peter Jackson to bring back the moor. Like, let's preserve what we've got, and then when we've got that in a space, maybe we can talk about it. Like, I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb. From a science point of view, I think it's very interesting if we could do it. Doing it with a bird, it would be hard because you can't get the DNA out of the bones. But they've apparently bred back the dire wolf.
Yeah,
recently.
I heard that as well. Yeah,
in America, and people again talking about the woolly mammoth. Now, like those, sure, cool.
One of the things they've said is you don't actually ever bring something back. You basically make a new mutated version of it that may look like it, but it's not bringing it back. So,
imagine like if there was some sort of genetic memory in a species, right? You bring it back and they get that. Oh, cool! You've brought me back. Oh, just in time for the fucking whole biome to die. Like rather than talking about this story, how about we talk about the study that came out and said, hey, look, we've been looking at the Southern Ocean around Antarctica. It's getting warmer and saltier. And that is going to fuck with the entire planet.
Yeah.
Or the people that go, hey, look, we're really concerned about Iceland's... is it Greenland or Iceland? I always get them mixed up. What's the bigger one?
Greenland, I think.
Greenland ice cap goes. It disrupts the current that keeps England warm. Basically. So all that fresh water goes in, they go, that current goes away, and then that's the northern hemisphere's climate fucked. But no, let's bring back some extinct animals and pretend that that's important from an ecological biodiversity point of view. Yes, it increases biodiversity by 1. How many species are we wiping out at the same time? Oh, I don't know. 850.
Shane Jones is responsible for wiping out about 10 species, I think. I think in the media there is it's fine to talk about as long as it's not replacing more important conversations. Like if Chlöe came on here, I'd probably ask her about it, but that's because hopefully we'd be talking to Chlöe for an hour and a quarter. So there's time. When you're in a 8-minute and 17-second conversation, spending the first third of it talking about that, although again, Chlöe did very, very well spinning it to talk about current ecology and how unimportant it actually was. But in saying all of that, let's get to the next bit. Because there's 2 points from this, and Chewie, I think you either said it yourself or it was the piece you read about it doesn't matter if a media is biased, it matters if they're accurate. I fully agree with that.
That was from Gary Lineker.
And I've taken it on board because I saw a story the other day talking about Mikey Sherman on Q&A interrupting the guest 12, 14 times, yet when another guest was on, they never got interrupted once. And I'm like, well, so was the person that was interrupted a lot telling the truth? Were they answering the question? Were they needing to be redirected? Interrupting versus not interrupting is not a demonstration of bias. Being accurate is what you need to do. And if she needed to redirect people, it was Paul Goldsmith, wasn't it? Redirect him or ask him again, or if he was saying something untruthful, that's fine. Accurate is more important. Like being biased doesn't mean that you interrupt someone 5 times and another person not at all. Right? That's not bias. Bias is actually when you won't accept accurate answers and try and spin it. So that's what they're having a talk about, right, in this conversation. The other thing that I think there is a beautiful bit here that just explains to everybody who Nicole McKee is and where she gets her information from. Because she reveals in this Chewie that she doesn't have a TV and she doesn't watch TV. So where does she get her news from? She gets her news from the internet. I'm on the internet, she says. And you were talking about the ACT people at that meeting, how they looked exactly like you'd expect them to. That's exactly where I would expect Nicole McKee to get her news from, the internet, and only the internet. I can even imagine the kinds of algorithms she's in to get that news that she has. So here they are talking about TVNZ bias review.
Bias review. So an independent person is going to come in and review the news, essentially, check for balance and bias. This is following government pressure about perceived...
It's the same to do with balance. Balance is not accurate. Balance doesn't matter. And the example that we often use, which is easy, is global warming, climate change. Because if you put two people up next to each other to give different perspectives, that gives the impression that it's an even conversation, it's balanced. Whereas the truth is, you should have 9 commentators or scientists on one side and 1 on the other. That would actually be accurate, but it would look imbalanced. So that's why this thing about balance doesn't matter and bias doesn't matter. Being accurate and truthful matter. And if you're going to want to be accurate, if you have a guest on that only represents 10% of the perspective out there, that needs to at least be said, or you need to figure out how to demonstrate it once in a while. Maybe you don't have that person on but once a month when you have the other person on 4 times a month, or something like that.
Bias at One News and TVNZ more generally. Nicole, do you think, when was the last time you watched 6 o'clock news, and do you think it was bias?
I haven't watched the 6 p.m. news for quite some time now. Usually...
It's a Minister of the Crown, whānau. Minister of the Crown hasn't watched the 6 p.m. news for some time. Anyone else surprised?
Because I'm quite busy and I don't have a television at home either. I haven't had one for over 25 years. So
really?
Yeah, so I'm on the internet.
She's on TikTok.
I'm on the internet. Not surprised.
So I'm on the internet. That's how I see my news. Are they biased? Well, I suggest that maybe they go and have a look at the ACT YouTube page when they're doing their review, because they'll see full videos of what's being recorded as opposed to what actually goes out on television. They can make their mind up there. But I congratulate TVNZ because they've recognised there's a drop in the polling and that they're trying to investigate why that is. So good.
Just remind you all as well, that whole kind of look at the ACT YouTube channel. We show everything, so does TVNZ. They put the full video up and then they cut it down for publication. We did this the other day with David Seymour and John Campbell. We showed you where TVNZ was hosting the full conversation, the full unedited conversation. And then ACT put out the full unedited conversation like it was some kind of gotcha. It was on the TVNZ website, as was the one made for broadcasting. It's ridiculous.
How do you watch movies? Just
Netflix, but I haven't watched a full movie all the way through for about 5 or 6 years. It can take me weeks to watch a movie.
Wow. And no wonder you don't have a TV. It's very difficult. Chlöe, do you think TV1 is biased?
I think that we need to take a step back and look at the whole media ecosystem. And look, the facts are that a majority of New Zealanders do have a bit of a crisis of trust in our media landscape. So I think it is a good thing that we are asking questions here. But the reality is, as Nicole has kind of alluded to, although I don't necessarily think that the ACT Party YouTube page is the source of truth, is that, every single thing that ends up being packaged up and presented on the 6 o'clock news has come from a choice, a selection of choices.
Yes,
basically.
I do agree with this bit. You get to edit. You get
to choose who you interview, therefore what voices end up being represented, what perspectives are. Then you get to edit which sound bites end up being represented, and then you get to package that up. Do you feel
you've been screwed over in that process previously?
I think that every politician would probably say that, if I'm honest with you, which is also probably part and parcel of a robust media landscape. It's important that we have a really strong fourth estate to hold politicians to account, and that's actually what really concerns me about the current landscape, is that we've seen a whittling down of the outlets and a whittling down of the journalists. And when we're trying to pitch, for example, stories on climate change, it's really hard to get the cut through because it's complicated stuff.
There you go. Don't know how much of that you heard, Joe, because of you dropping in and out. I have a bit of a rant again on I don't care about balance. I don't care about neutrality. And it's not because I want my perspective definitely put out there. I care about accuracy and truthfulness. And if being accurate means someone has to be cut into 10 times in an interview because they're bullshitting, and the next person who is very accurate doesn't get cut into at all, that's not a demonstration of bias towards that person. That's a demonstration of that person not telling the truth and needing to be stopped, to redirected, to call them on it. That's what it's about.
Look, I think the classic case here is the Green Party's alternative budgets, both the one that they did this year and the one that they did in the lead up to the election. That was a serious piece of work that was pretty much hand waved away by their opposition. And And that was enough for the media at that time. They're like, oh, we're not even going to look at this. It's just fucking crazy. But there was some really, really interesting points there that I just wish were given the weight that they deserved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that the Green Party is only going to solve by getting more and more vote share. But I have big concerns about the media landscape because of the massive culling that we've had. Like we've focused this week on a couple of right-wing voices, or at least voices that are definitely taking right-wing talking points, Paddy Gower and Ryan Bridge, and they've got big platforms. And then in the alternative space, you've got a lot of right-wing outlets as well. And then the comments that I had from people that I met tonight at the protest and that sort of thing, of like, oh, we've finally found some left-wing media, some left-wing news commentary. I just didn't know that there was any.
Who are they talking about?
They're talking about us, Pat.
What?
And they're talking about Bomber, and they're talking about Mountain Tui, and they're talking about Paul Barlow. And we are all doing our own thing on the smell of Patreon fan donations and oily rags.
And Jacinda. Remember that brown envelope from Jacinda every week?
Oh, I don't like to be gauche and bring that up all the time.
Okay.
But yeah, there is something wrong in our media landscape, and I think there is just not the bodies out there. It's too easy to get stuff past them at the moment, and I think that's showing in the stories that we have and the time that is being spent on these issues. Like if it's 1 or 2 days and then it's on to the next thing. Like if a politician can outlast that, which most of them can, then they're home free.
Mm. Yeah. I was going to mention, you talked about they've got big audiences. I think there's a relativity that needs to be understood here as well. Like I looked today at the stuff page, and I'm looking at it right now, and good grief, what is that?
Fucking hell. Oh shit, what's happening? My phone just went spastic. Sorry.
So the stuff piece with Paddy Gower has had 2,800 views. And stuff has 82,000 subscribers. The clip we did last night about the stuff that included that clip has had 3,200 views, and we've got 18,500 subscribers. I know that the Herald at the moment is getting around 5,000 views for the BHN that they do each morning, about 5,000 views on the episode. We get, well, because we've been talking about Gaza, we've dipped at about 500, but we're getting around that 3,000 figure. NZ Herald has 182,000 subscribers, and we're getting more than half what they get with 18,500 subscribers. So yeah, they do have a platform and they do have lots of people, but it's not the same as, for example, being on TVNZ News. That would be 500,000 in their sleep without even trying on a Saturday night, So those shares are being broken up a bit more. Hey, look, there is one more thing I want to play us, and it's a very short clip, and it is just Nicole McKee being asked about the COVID inquiry. I do love that Jacinda just went, oh, yep, I'll come back if they want me to come back. Because, of course, the Ryan Bridges, the Paddy Gowers, the tinfoil hat-wearing brigade were like, oh, Nuremberg 2.0. Well, Ryan Bridge and that weren't there, but, they were like, she'll never come back. And they asked her and she went, yep, no problems. I'll come back for it. I, on some level, maybe called the bluff, but we'll see what happens, right? That's the first thing I love about the COVID inquiry. The second thing is what Nicole McKee says now. So she's about to get asked about the COVID inquiry and how important it is. And she doesn't realize this because I don't think she's very smart. But what she's saying is we should have listened to the Regulatory Standards Bill, the first lot of submissions, that we only got 0.33% of the respondents in our favour. Have a listen first to what she says about the COVID inquiry, and then I might just read you a quote.
So we had Chris Hipkins in yesterday. He said he thinks that this is about platforming what did he call them, extremist views, conspiracy theorists. Nicole, do you think that undermines the COVID inquiry?
No, I don't at all. And I think that, you know, we had 13,000 submissions of people telling us what they wanted to be reviewed and what they wanted the inquiry to look at. And I think that, you know, as a government, we are giving the people what they wanted. Chris Hipkins needs to, well, I encourage him to stand up and actually front New Zealand, because he needs to tell them what his thinking was behind some of the decisions that he made. That's how we will learn as a country what worked, what didn't work. So I encourage him to take the opportunity, if it's given to him, to turn up and speak to the inquiry.
All right.
So this is what she said. We had 13,000 submissions of people telling us what they wanted to be reviewed and what they wanted the inquiry to look at. And I think as a government, we're giving the people what they wanted. So what she's saying is the people who made submissions, all 13,000 of them wanted us to do this. We are a government that fulfills the needs and wants of our people. So we're going to do it. And so I just want to know what she thinks about this, the needs and wants of the people. This is the first round of the Regulatory Standards Bill. After the discussion document was launched on the bill in November, the Ministry of Regulation received about 23,000 submissions. So it's not quite twice as many, but it's getting there. Of those, 88% opposed the bill. 0.33% or 76 submissions supported or partially supported it, and about 12% did not have a clear position, the ministry reported. So here is my question, Minister McKee. If 13,000 submissions from people telling you what they wanted that led you to giving the people what they wanted, what does 23,000 submissions telling you what they didn't want mean? That surely you should have given them what they didn't want, or what they wanted was no regulatory standards bill. It is quite interesting and ironic in this stage that we's wrong. The government, we the people, the government can say, well, these submissions support this, so of course we're going to do it. But when it's a narrative that they want to push through, then of course, as David Seymour said, 99.5% of those submissions were bots, which would still leave 0.5%, which would still be more than 76. So I just thought it's very gracious of Nicole McKee to put out there that we should not be moving forward with the Regulatory Standards Bill, because what the people wanted is what you do based on 13,000 submissions. So I assume what the people wanted based on 23,000 submissions is what you do. And I wonder even more so, I believe the number is now 151,000. What people want from 151,000 submissions in this round of the Regulatory Standards Bill should be therefore what you do.